I'm hanging out at New Seasons with my buddy Charlie, and Charlie is a meeting monster.
I don't know about a monster.
He goes to a lot of meetings.
I do that.
So the question I have today, I was thinking about, I think we were talking the other day about status meetings and how I absolutely despise them. And how let me be really clear. So status meeting is the classic meeting where maybe you've got a team of 7 or 8 people or 10 or 20, I don't know, however many, and you all sit at the table or the virtual table, and each person goes around and talks about what they're working on. And sometimes these meetings are set up as just talk about the important things, or just talk about the things you need help with, or whatever. But they usually descend into, like, and I've done it myself. I'm as guilty as the next guy of, like, you know, how much stuff can I put on this list so that I sound like I'm really pulling my weight or, you know, doing important stuff. So the question I have here is there a better way to do that? Is there a way to not have the status meeting? And the other thing I thought, I'm curious of what you think of this, was I've come to the conclusion that status meetings are actually, they do more harm than good. Because inevitably the meeting descends into everyone pretty much trying to justify their existence and impress everyone with what they're working on, and really not meeting to, like, coordinate or get anything done. And so you'd be better off almost not having the meeting, because it's creating this really, like, can create this kind of toxic, net negative vibe on a team. What do you think about that?
Let me take on that negative toxic part back first, because the status meeting that comes instantly to mind is he has all his direct reports in a room, and he goes through, hey, here are the updates, and he goes, okay, let's go around the room. And everyone has a chance to give your update. And so each person is doing exactly what you're talking about. Well, let me tell you about all the things I did this week. And some will even do things like, oh, yeah, but I updated you on that in my one-on-one, you remember? And like make these references to things that other people don't know about. And people are like, well, wait a minute, what is he talking about? Maybe there's something I need to know here. You know, maybe I didn't talk in my one-on-one enough. So I think they do become very much this positioning thing between his direct reports. Here's a chance for me to show that I'm important and I'm influential and what I have to say really matters. And instead what happens is these series of one-on-ones in a public forum where each person's talking and going around the room. We're all like people are literally in the room doing email while other people are talking, because they're like,
because no one's paying attention to the.
And sometimes I don't even think my boss is paying attention. Like, he'll be doing email, right? And I'm like, what are we doing here? Like, really? So I like status meetings as being toxic or a waste of time. I totally get that. I think they can be useful when the material actually is stuff that everybody needs to know, right? Like if you're carefully crafting these things on the topics, I think potentially it could be, hey, we all need to go grapple with this issue and understand this is an important issue that affects all of us, and we all need to know. Like, if you don't get your performance reviews in tomorrow, no one gets a bonus. Oh, hey, I'm really interested.
So have you seen, like, do you have ideas on alternatives? And the one alternative that I've done that worked for a while but then kind of quickly went downhill was we used Trello. And we had a Trello board where each person had a column. So in Trello you have lists and cards, and so each list belonged to a person. So their name, there were like 7 or 8 people on the team, and so everyone had a column, and then people would create cards for kind of the major initiatives or bigger things that they were working on, and then they would drag those cards into kind of a priority order of, this is how I'm working these things. So you could tell that, you know, the things at the top of their list were the things they were doing, the things at the bottom they were going to get to someday or maybe never. That was kind of a way to skip that part, and it was supposed to be, talk about the things you really need help or need to coordinate. But over time, it devolved into people just reading their board to everyone, and then some, again, to kind of make it look like you had enough to do and all that. So
yeah, well, I mean, so I'm not doing any team meetings at all right now. Like I just like I don't have time.
Okay.
I'm on a big project. We're implementing a content management system, right? So I'm in lots of project meetings. But in terms of my team is smaller right now. So I have 4 people, I think. So we're not having any team meetings. Instead, we're using Slack, and so what I'm most concerned about, I'm like, do the people who work for me know what to do? Like, do they know? Can they come in and know what to do? And are they, coordinating on the stuff they need to coordinate on? And so 2 of my people sit right next to each other, so they can just literally turn around and ask questions. And they collaborate all the time. So one person is a floor underneath. So I've been doing just like the old management by walking around, right? Where I just periodically when I have a moment during the day, I just stop by and say, hey, what's going on? Do you have any questions? Need anything? Just more as like, hey, all the balls in the air. Is anything dropped? Anything you're stuck on? And the other thing I've done is Slack me if I'm in a meeting and you need help on something. And so they've kind of gotten to the habit of, hey, I'll just send a Slack, and that tends to be a good connection point.
Now, why Slack as opposed to text?
I like Slack better. Like if you go in order of escalation, right? Slack is nice because if you need to message to more than one person, it can be on a channel. Right, so I have a general update that people need to know, like for the cart tasks, right? They're all here in this location. I also like the way Slack splits between the computer and the phone. So if I'm working on my computer, then I can just flip over to the Slack app, type my answer, then flip back. It's all fine. Or if I'm not, it'll flip over to the phone. So that's why I like that.
So you've eliminated the status meeting, maybe not consciously, but you're accomplishing the same purpose by using Slack and then just kind of floating around and staying in touch with people.
Yeah. And so that's worked pretty well as my team has been small. And as I've added an additional person, I'm not sure. I'm like, we may need to get together and just because having a one-on-one dialogue saying, hey, are you okay? What do you need? Is fine when you have a couple of people. Right. But when you get, I don't know, it was working fine with 2 or 3, but as I'm going to 4 and I've had more bigger teams, then you kind of need okay, I need everybody in the room. Let me just give you all my updates all at once.
See, and I've been wondering, I only have 2 reports at this point, but as I think into the future, I've been wondering, is there a way to avoid that meeting too? Like, I even had this crazy idea of what if I did a video? What if I did a 5 or 10 minute, just stare into the camera and just be like, okay, here's John's big data dump. You can see my face and my lips moving. Hopefully you're listening. And I'm just going to give you all this stuff. I'm going to send you this video and you can watch it. I guess that would... there's no room to ask questions, I guess. But I don't know. I'm just kind of wondering. Because, to me it would be sad if I got to the point where I had more people and I kind of ended up with this, weekly debrief, John just talking at everyone.
Yeah, I think... Well, I think people need to feel connected. So I think a video like that, I would not feel connected to you as a manager.
Ah, okay. So
I think understanding the purpose of the meeting is probably really important, being very focused on that.
So you're saying that there could be an inherent value in just... Because I think I like to say I have a PhD in pragmatics.
Yeah.
Sometimes it takes me a little too... So you're saying that maybe it's too pragmatic to just say, no, there has to be an absolutely real... There could be an intangible purpose to the meeting, to meeting that maybe I'm overlooking.
Yeah, I think somewhere along the way, I remember, and I don't remember, there was some piece of research talking about what was the most important piece of the meeting, and they were talking about the first 5 minutes while people are collecting, and you're just shooting the breeze about, hey, what'd you do this weekend? What about the sports? And, did you see this funny video? And that forms connections and relationships, and outside of the work, I'm just doing the work context, that kind of lubricates the communication channels so that you can actually get work done. So I think there is some intangible value there, just in connecting. But I'll give you a flip example of one that I shut down. We were meeting with a vendor who was having problems, And I'm like, okay, so you've got serious problems with your application. It's not performing the way it needs to perform. Like, you didn't integrate your products and it's broken. We have 28 fixes in production for your software product, right? And so we have this conversation. We air out all the dirty laundry. And they're like, okay, I want to set up a weekly meeting where we're going to get together. And I'm like, no, I don't want a week. I don't need another meeting in my calendar.
Send me a new version.
I'm like, fix the problem. I'm like, don't set up a weekly meeting to make me feel better just because you're listening to me and I'm listening to you. Get the problem fixed. So that would be an example of, I could see this like never-ending cycle of, oh, so how you doing? Well, yeah, we're working on it really hard. Like, we shouldn't need a meeting for you to get your work done. Yeah.
Well put. So that would be a status meeting where, I guess, in the context of a vendor.
Right.
Not so much like a staff status, which I think was my original thought. But that is an interesting, I like the way you closed that down.
Well, people want to jump to like, oh, if I just schedule a meeting, that means work is going to get done or something good's going to happen.
Or you'll feel better.
Yeah, and even like it's the staff meeting. It's like, do we need to have a staff meeting every week? I don't.
Once a month or every other week or needed.
So I don't know. I mean, there's some value in having a routine, but I'm not. Yeah, I would hope there's a better way.
Thanks for listening to The John Polster Show. Notes, links, and all that other good stuff for this episode are at johnpolster.com/podcast. If you have questions or ideas for the podcast, send those to podcast@johnpolster.com. Thanks to Kevin MacLeod for the music on this podcast, which is licensed under a Creative Commons license and can be found at incompetech.com.